Jeffery Winthrop and I were sitting in the Registry office to get our marriage certificate, when he was called away by a phone call. He left me with just one sentence. "Something urgent has come up. Let's reschedule getting the certificate." He hurried away, leaving me alone in the marriage registration office surrounded by couples. All because his childhood sweetheart had fallen down the stairs and sprained her ankle. A little while later, he sent another message. "Vicky's problem is a bit serious. I need to stay with her. Let's postpone tomorrow's wedding ceremony." This wasn't the first time Jeffery had abandoned me in favor of Vicky Payne. This time, I didn't react as I had in the past, getting jealous, sulking, and then compromising. The staff member looked at me sympathetically and asked, "Miss, would you still like to proceed?" I took out my phone and sent a text to the man who owed me a promise. Yes, I would. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I sat on the waiting chairs in the Registry office lobby, staring at the reply on my phone. "Wait for me, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Just as I was lost in thought, my mom called. "Claudia, have you and Jeffery gotten your marriage certificate? Come to the Marine Hotel, both our families are having dinner together." Hearing my mom's words, I remained surprisingly calm. "Mom, we didn't get the certificate. Vicky twisted her ankle, so he went to the hospital with her." I wasn't particularly upset because it had happened too many times. I was used to it. My mom was furious when she heard this. She had been a force to be reckoned with in the business world for years, and hadn't lost her temper like this in a long time. Changing the time? Does he think he can just change it on a whim? We've invited distinguished family friends. Are all these people just playing house with him? If this gets out, he should think about you. She suddenly paused for a moment. Then, she seemed to remember my persistence and compromises over the past few years. She sighed. "Claudia, what do you think?" "Mom respects your decision." My previously calm expression crumbled upon hearing these words from my mom. I hung up the phone. Over the years, I had done many foolish things for Jeffery, and compromised many of my principles for him. We met, got to know each other, and fell in love during university, spending a wonderful time as students together. After graduation, since both our families were local, we started planning our engagement. Everything seemed to be going so smoothly. For a while, I thought I was the happiest person in the world. Until Vicky Payne appeared. One day after our engagement. We had planned to watch a movie together. But as soon as we met, he was called away by a phone call. From that point on, him being called away became the norm. He explained to me. His childhood friend had returned to the country and he needed to pick her up. Her family had gone bankrupt. Her parents had died in a car accident, leaving her as the only orphan. She was in a pitiful state. Her parents had been very kind to him when they were alive. Her name was Vicky Payne. From that day on, Jeffery was frequently called away, and the time we spent together became less and less. He loved Lego, so I spent a fortune buying a limited edition set, and painstakingly assembled it over half a month before eagerly presenting it to him. Seeing his joy, I felt satisfied too. However, what he liked, Vicky also liked. She asked him for it with a grin, and although he was reluctant, he gave it to her. When I found out, I was heartbroken and cried in secret. The next time we met, he explained. "She's a friend, it's hard to refuse her. Don't overthink it, I don't have any other feelings for her. I'll build you one another day." Just like that, I was placated. He was a very good person, considerate and attentive to everyone. About 6 months into our engagement, we went hiking with friends, and Vicky was unexpectedly among them. This wasn't the first time I had seen her, but it was the first time I clearly understood her intentions. Halfway up the mountain, we two fell slightly behind, and Vicky suddenly bumped into me, seemingly by accident. We both fell off the steps and rolled down the hillside. My arm hurt terribly, I couldn't lift it at all. I turned my head to look at Vicky, confused and angry. But she leaned in close and whispered in my ear. "Claudia, if I said you bumped into me, who do you think Jeffery would believe? Would he help you first, or me?" When Jeffrey and a few friends heard the commotion and hurried over, I saw Vicky quietly sobbing with tears in her eyes. Claudia, maybe she was tired from climbing and lost her balance, accidentally bumping into me. She then glanced at me timidly. I wanted to explain and looked up at Jeffrey, but suddenly felt frozen in place. He didn't believe me. He picked up Vicky and looked down at me. Claudia, don't be unreasonable. Right, just because I had made a fuss about Vicky a couple of times before. Now everything was my fault. Unreasonable? I never thought this cliché would be used on me. That day, I watched him carry Vicky away. Our friends were also a bit at a loss, offering various words of comfort. Claudia, we believe you're not that kind of person. That's right, don't be angry. Jeffrey just saw that Vicky's scrapes were serious. Her hands were covered in blood. I shook my head. It's fine, you all continue climbing. I'll head down first. One friend was going to accompany me down. I refused, there was no need to spoil everyone else's fun. No one saw that my arm was dislocated, the flesh raw and bloody. I endured the pain and made my way down the mountain. I called 999 myself. While waiting for the ambulance, I lost consciousness from exhaustion. Just before closing my eyes, I heard a slightly panicked voice. Claudia! Claudia! I lifted my head as the voice from my memory overlapped with the one in my ear now. Looking bewildered at the newcomer. Stephen Watson. The helmsman of Watson Group, orphaned at a young age. Not only protected his parents' business but also took Watson Group to new heights. He was at the pinnacle of their wealthy circle. My acquaintance with him was an accident. When I visited my grandmother's house after graduating from 6th form. There, I happened to save his life once and stayed with him while he recovered. When he left, he gave me his contact information and promised to grant me one unconditional request within his power in the future. After that, our families would occasionally interact, and we would often meet, gradually becoming familiar. When did we grow distant? It seems that since I told my family about my relationship with Jeffery Winthrop, we hadn't seen each other for 2 or 3 years. When I sent him a message, I was actually nervous. After all, he was unpredictable and aloof. But looking at the entire circle, he was the only one I could think of. The Winthrop family's influence was not small. And besides him, no one would dare to marry me at this time. I didn't know if he had changed his contact information. I didn't know if he still remembered that promise. So now, looking at this cold and handsome man before me, wearing a tailored suit, seemingly having rushed over from a business engagement. My eyes reddened slightly, my vision gradually blurred by tears. I seemed to hear Stephen sigh, reaching out to gently wipe away the tears on my eyelashes. Why are you crying? Didn't you ask me to come and register for marriage? Having second thoughts? I shook my head and pulled him into the register office. Amidst the staff's surprise, we handed over our documents. And it was done in just over 10 minutes. So getting married was this quick. But even for these 10 or so minutes, Jeffery Winthrop wasn't willing to wait with me. Or perhaps he wasn't willing to let his little childhood sweetheart wait. Standing at my front door, I stared at the marriage certificate in my hand. I took a deep breath. As soon as we left the register office, Stephen hurried away. He mentioned something about an important government tender he couldn't miss and needed to rush to. Before leaving, he looked at me with deep eyes. Don't worry, the wedding ceremony tomorrow will go ahead as planned. I nodded. When I texted him earlier, I had explained everything in detail. As I was about to call my driver, my phone rang. It was Jeffrey. His voice, as always, was gentle when I answered. Claudia, I'm sorry. I thought he was apologizing for leaving me at the register office and canceling the wedding. Just as I was about to respond, Vicky Payne's sweet voice came through. Claudia, I'm so sorry. I accidentally ruined your wedding dress. I'm really sorry, Claudia. Then came Jeffrey's soft, comforting words. It's all right, don't cry. Claudia isn't the type to make a fuss about these things. Then he spoke to me again. Claudia, since tomorrow's wedding is canceled anyway, I'll take you to choose an even better dress another day. I didn't want to say anything more. I felt exhausted and drained. I didn't ask why they weren't at the hospital, but instead in the new house where my wedding dress was kept. I didn't ask if Jeffrey had forgotten that the dress was one we had designed together since university, with special meaning. I didn't ask anything. There was no point anymore. I was already married, wasn't I? The time I spent with Jeffrey, I won't deny, was happy. During university, it was even blissful. I also won't deny Jeffrey's sincerity towards me. Eyes don't lie. But that sincerity wasn't reserved for me alone. Ever since Vicky appeared, I was no longer his favorite. I still remember one gathering. Because I'm not good with alcohol. I felt a bit tipsy after a few drinks and went to the loo. When I came back, I overheard that drunken statement. Jeff, I won't marry anyone but you in this life. The room fell silent for a moment after those words. Everyone knew Jeffrey was engaged. A friend tried to change the subject with a joke. But I stood at the doorway, holding my breath, waiting for Jeffrey's response. What I got was a gentle reminder. I'll go get some hangover soup. Vicky's going to have a headache later. Look after her, will you? I can't describe how I felt at that moment. Disappointed? Or something else? It doesn't matter now. I grew up pampered too. And the biggest heartaches and disappointments in my life all came from Jeffrey. I compromised and gave in for so long. Looking back, I must have been obsessed. A love that's not exclusively for me. A love that's not uniquely favoring me. I don't want it anymore. It's fine. If it's ruined, then let's just forget about it. Throw it away. Hearing my calm, emotionless tone, Jeffrey was taken aback. No jealousy, no complaints, no imagined argument. He should have been relieved. But for some reason, a wave of panic surged in Jeffrey's heart. Anything else? I asked, not wanting to continue this pointless conversation. Jeffrey opened his mouth, then fell silent. No, that's all. Just as I was about to hang up, Vicky's voice faintly came through. Jeff, look, is it okay if I pack these clothes for you? I ended the call without expression. Jeffrey hurriedly looked at his phone when he heard the sound. Feeling uneasy as he saw the call had ended, he looked up at Vicky with displeasure. I don't need you to pack my clothes. I'll take you there. I'll be back as soon as you're settled. Vicky's eyes instantly filled with tears. Jeff, I only have you now. Are you going to abandon me too, not care about me anymore? Jeffrey's eyes softened. I won't stop caring for you, but Vicky, you need to learn to be independent. I'll take you there, but I'm getting married too. If it weren't for your urgent injury, I would be marrying Claudia tomorrow. A flash of hurt crossed Vicky's eyes, then turned to determination. As I watched the Maybach pull up in front of me, I stepped aside, slightly puzzled. The car came to a stop. A man in his 40s got out and approached me. He smiled warmly. Are you Miss Brown? I nodded. And you are? It turned out he was the driver Stefan had sent to take me home. I couldn't help but smile to myself. Perhaps this marriage wouldn't be so bad after all. When I arrived home, I was greeted by my mother's exasperated scolding. As she seemed to be gathering steam, I quickly pulled out the still-warm marriage certificate, successfully quelling her anger. Dad, sitting by the piano, gave me a thumbs up. I lifted my chin proudly. Mom muttered, but I thought that Winthrop boy was going to. Mom's eyes widened as she looked at the certificate, then at me, then at Dad. What's this? Seeing my usually decisive mother in this state, Dad came over too. After seeing the name and photo on the marriage certificate, he wore the same expression as Mom. What the hell? I calmly sat down on the sofa and asked the housekeeper for a glass of lemonade. Mom and Dad sat down beside me, carefully asking, Darling, what's this about? I nodded. Mom, Dad, I'm not marrying Jeffrey Winthrop anymore. I wouldn't be chasing after him anymore, getting jealous or throwing tantrums. As I finished speaking, my parents' faces showed surprise, then a hint of joy. Darling, have you come to your senses? I nodded solemnly. Yes, I've already registered my marriage with Stefan. Dad's face instantly lit up with joy. You should have realized sooner, darling. That Jeffery Winthrop is all looks and no substance, a right player. I never liked him. Mom waved the marriage certificate. But darling, what about tomorrow's wedding? I looked up at Mom. The wedding will still go ahead tomorrow. This marriage still needs to happen. The Brown family has been in business for generations. And I can't let our reputation be ruined by my actions. After graduating, I didn't join the company. I've already humiliated myself enough by chasing after him for so long. Getting jealous and arguing. After dinner, I sorted through the wedding gifts sent over by the Winthrops. Jeffrey had put a lot of thought into our wedding, carefully selecting the best gifts. He had been so attentive. Yet in the end, he still abandoned me for Vicky. My phone rang. I opened it to see. It was Jeffrey. The October evening had grown chilly, with stars twinkling in the night sky. A gentle breeze carried the fragrance of flowers and greenery from the garden, creating a pleasant atmosphere. I opened the gate and immediately spotted the man standing under the streetlight. He looked just as he did when we first met. Handsome features and a clean, refreshing aura. When he saw me, his eyes seemed to light up. He was truly captivating. I couldn't help but marvel inwardly at the man I had fancied for years. Claudia, have you eaten? He asked. I nodded. Did you come here for something? Jeffrey glanced at my expression. Claudia, I'm sorry about today. I failed to keep our appointment. I replied coolly, it's all right. I'm used to it. After Claudia had hung up the phone, Jeffrey began to feel uneasy. All afternoon, he felt as if he had lost something. So he wanted to see her before flying to North America. Now, looking at Claudia's calm demeanor, he couldn't tell if everything was fine or not. After a moment's thought, Jeffrey said to me, Claudia, are you angry? Are you upset that I left you alone at the register office and postponed our wedding? You see? He knew I would be angry, but he did it anyway. Why? Probably because I'm pathetic. Every time he abandons me for his dear Vicky, I get angry and make a fuss. But I always forgive him because I like him so much. Jeffrey knows how much I like him. So, the favored one takes advantage. But he's always stingy with showing that favor to me. Seeing my increasingly cold expression, Jeffrey assumed I was angry, which actually made him feel relieved. A hint of secret joy flashed in his eyes, thinking that if I was just angry, he could explain and coax me, and everything would be fine. Jeffrey ruffled my hair, withdrawing his hand before I could dodge. Claudia, Vicky's ankle injury is serious. She needs treatment from a specialist in North America. It's urgent. The surgery must be done within 48 hours, or there could be lasting effects. That's why I need to accompany her. I couldn't hide the mockery in my eyes. What, are there no other people in the world? Are assistants and caregivers all dead? Does it have to be you? Can you just disregard our family's wedding plans? Jeffrey's eyes showed disapproval. Claudia, you're the only one in my heart. Don't make a fuss. I just see her as a sister. I'm worried about her being alone in a foreign country. Once I've settled her in, I'll come right back. Claudia, when I return, I promise to give you an even grander wedding. I wanted to ask him if he knew what changing our wedding date for Vicky's sake would do to me. But before I could voice my thoughts, his phone rang. It was Vicky, with her personalized ringtone. She had even bragged about it to my face. When Jeffrey heard about it at the time, he had casually said, Claudia, she set that herself on my phone when she was in secondary school. You can set one too if you want. I'll know it's you as soon as I hear it. At that moment, I thought, so early, huh? For Jeffrey, Vicky could freely use his phone. For Jeffrey, Vicky had always been special, long before I came along. Even though I had been in his life earlier, Jeffrey's favoritism had always been for Vicky. I was never the only exception. I didn't set a ringtone. I didn't want something that belonged to someone else. Looking back now, it's almost funny. It's as if I'm the third wheel. After all, he's the man I've liked for so many years. When I came downstairs and saw him, my heart still skipped a beat involuntarily. Now, I watched him answer the phone, listening to Vicky's whiny voice on the other end. "Jeff, where are you? The plane is about to board." Jeffrey soothed her gently. "Vicky, be good and sit still. Mind your foot. I'll be there soon." After coaxing her for a while longer, he hung up and looked at me a bit awkwardly. He glanced at the time. "I have to go, Claudia. There's no time left." I watched his anxious expression and began to speak. "Jeffrey, I've already dash." Beep beep beep. The car horn interrupted my words, but Jeffrey seemed relieved. He stepped forward and hugged me tightly. "Claudia, wait for me. Wait for me to come and marry you later." Then he quickly left. I didn't say anything more. There would be no later. Jeffrey got into the car and looked back at the girl standing alone under the streetlight. His heart suddenly ached. Then came an endless panic, screaming at him to get out. To hold her, to tell her he wasn't going to North America. As the figure grew smaller in the distance, just as he was about to say stop the car, his phone rang. It was Vicky. Jeffrey fell silent. The wedding was about to begin. I gazed at my reflection in the mirror, mesmerized by the elegant white gown and delicate veil adorning my figure. It was quite different from the modern ceremony Jeffrey and I had initially planned. This traditional English wedding was arranged by Stefan just last night. Yesterday, as I watched Jeffrey walk away without looking back, I felt a momentary pang of sadness, but mostly relief. It was clear that I had never been his unwavering choice. I decided to let it go. Just as I turned to head home, I spotted a car around the corner, followed by a line of vehicles. Stefan stepped out, leading a group of people carrying various items. I felt a mix of nervousness and confusion, wondering if he had seen Jeffrey and curious about his sudden appearance. "Why are you standing outside?" his deep, magnetic voice inquired. Assuming he hadn't witnessed anything, I smiled and replied, "Just getting some fresh air." "What brings you here?" When Stefan mentioned he was here to deliver the wedding gifts, I was momentarily taken aback. Then I heard my mother's voice. "Stefan's here. Darling, why are you just standing there? Bring Stefan inside." Still bewildered, I let him in. Sitting on the sofa, I watched Stefan engage in pleasant conversation with my parents, feeling as though I had stepped into some alternate reality. The commotion outside brought me back to the present. It was almost time. As I slowly made my way to the door, I overheard snippets of gossip. Everyone in our circle knows Vicky fancies Jeffrey. This whole situation is clearly her attempt to prevent him from marrying Claudia. I heard Jeffrey followed Vicky to North America. He got so worried over a minor injury. She must be the apple of his eye. The groom's gone, and they're saying the wedding's postponed. Looks more like they want to call it off. Poor Claudia, dating for years only to be outshone by someone's dramatic return. Claudia used to be the belle of our circle, so proud and aloof. How the tables have turned. Her reputation's in tatters now. How will she ever find a husband? I received a call from the Winthrops yesterday saying the wedding was cancelled. But then the Browns rang to say it was still on. Can't make heads or tails of it. Are these families about to feud? Same here. I've kept this day free for ages, might as well see how it unfolds. Listening to their words, I found myself agreeing. The audience always sees things clearly. As for me, Jeffrey wouldn't care about any of this. He'd never know how humiliating it was for me in our social circle to have our wedding postponed for Vicky's sake. It was time. As I emerged, I came face to face with the gossipers, who hadn't realized they were near the bridal suite. Embarrassed, they mumbled, "Congratulations on your wedding." I smiled and softly replied, "Thank you. I truly meant it. Thank you for helping me see that I was nothing but a fool in this charade." The guests, unaware of the change in groom, were eager to see how I would handle the situation. When Stefan appeared in his groom's attire, the room fell silent in shock before erupting into a cacophony of whispers. His cool, deep voice cut through the noise, silencing the crowd. Today, the couple getting married has always been Stefan Watson and Claudia Brown. Is that clear to everyone? The guests hurriedly agreed, and congratulatory words filled the air. The ceremony proceeded smoothly. This date, October 20th, was originally chosen by Jeffrey and me. I had thought it would be our happiest day. But Jeffrey, today, I got married, and you weren't the groom. I glanced at Stefan beside me. He too was a fine match. After the ceremony, I changed into my reception dress. The evening was a whirlwind of activity. My feet ached from all the walking, and though I hadn't drunk much, I felt slightly tipsy. By the end of the reception, Stefan practically had to carry me to our room. Too exhausted to think, I indulged in a relaxing bath before collapsing onto the bed, unable to move. Who knew getting married could be so tiring? The door opened, and I saw Stefan enter the bathroom with his sleepwear. I sat up abruptly, suddenly remembering I wasn't alone in the room. This was my new husband, and tonight was our wedding night. The thought made my cheeks flush. When he emerged from the bathroom, I snuck a glance, relieved to see he was decently covered. I felt him approach, my hands unconsciously gripping the bedsheets tighter. He came so close I could feel his warm breath on my ear, followed by a soft chuckle. I looked up, meeting his eyes filled with amusement. He gently pried my hands from the sheets. "Don't grip so hard, you'll hurt yourself." I awkwardly averted my gaze. Stefan stood and walked to the other side of the bed. Our marriage was rather sudden. "I know you're not fully prepared. We'll take things slowly. I won't change my mind, don't worry." I nodded, aware that he knew about my history with Jeffrey, and the insecurities it had left me with. Unexpectedly, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. Marrying him so hastily, I don't know if I would regret it in the future. But for now, I felt only one thing: safe. Sharing a bed with a man I barely knew in an unfamiliar place. I thought I'd have trouble sleeping. Surprisingly, I fell asleep quite quickly. The next morning when I woke up, I drowsily nuzzled against what I thought was my pillow. The feeling was off. As my senses returned, I quietly let go and glanced up, only to see a pair of clear, deep eyes looking at me with a hint of amusement. My cheeks instantly flushed red, and I hurriedly sat up. I'm sorry, I'm a restless sleeper." Stefan raised his hand and gently ruffled my hair. "It's all right, no need to apologize. We're married after all." After we finished freshening up, Stefan glanced at me. "Shall we go and have a look at our marital home?" I didn't think much of it and followed along. As it turned out, I was in for a big surprise. Our marital home was right next door to my parents' house. I was overjoyed, darting around the ground floor, wanting to see every corner. Stefan stood by the sofa, watching me with a smile. I thought I'd be depressed for a long time after letting go of Jeffrey. But in reality, the fondness that had been slowly worn away left me feeling more wistful and relieved once I'd moved on. A week after the wedding, Jeffrey hadn't contacted me once, which was a bit disappointing. He must be so focused on taking care of his childhood sweetheart. If I hadn't married Stefan, this week would have been unbearable. I daren't imagine how vicious the gossip outside would have been. "Jeffrey, I won't be waiting for you anymore." However, this slight disappointment didn't affect my mood. I smiled with acceptance as I watched Stefan walking towards me. I now have someone to cherish, and this is my life. Stefan is very good to me. It's beyond my expectations. In my plan, he should have been neither averse to nor fond of this marriage. Rumor had it he didn't have anyone he liked, which is why I made that promise. But his kindness towards me gives me the illusion that he actually likes me. So, looking at the man working in the study. "Stefan." What is it? Did you agree to marry me to fulfill your promise, or?" I originally wanted to ask if he liked me, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. Better not to embarrass myself. I smiled self-mockingly. "It's nothing, carry on with your work. Perhaps he's just being nice to me out of respect for his wife. Better not to be presumptuous." I was about to leave when I was pulled into an embrace that smelled of a cool fragrance. I heard a sigh from above my head. "Claudia, I thought I had made it clear enough." I was stunned, unsure if it meant what I thought it did. My voice trembling slightly. What do you mean? Stefan lowered his head and looked into my eyes earnestly. Claudia, I like you. I've liked you for a long time. Since we live close to my parents. Stefan and I often have dinner at my mom's place. My dad is not only a skilled pianist but also an excellent cook. He often boasts to me that he first caught my mom's eye with his piano playing, then won her over with his cooking skills, finally capturing the heart of that once proud and aloof Rose. I listen with admiration, starry-eyed. Seeing this, Stefan leans in and whispers softly in my ear. If you like, I can cook for you too. Noticing my parents' teasing glances, I feel my face flush red to the tips of my ears. Who said I like it? I protest weakly. Ever since Stefan confessed his feelings that day, we've grown much closer. It was then that I learned he had fallen for me at first sight. Harboring feelings for me for so long. I must admit, I was secretly delighted and even bragged about it to my mom. She just rolled her eyes at me. I've known for ages. After you saved him, he started visiting our house frequently. At first, your dad and I thought it was out of gratitude. But as his visits increased, we noticed how he looked at you. When he realized we'd caught on, he came clean, saying you were still young and just starting university, not ready yet. He'd wait until you were a bit older. Your dad and I were pleased. He's local, and though there's a bit of an age gap, 6 years isn't too bad. If you married him, you'd be the lady of the house, with no worries about in-laws or relatives. But then, just as we were appreciating his thoughtfulness, you announced in your second year that you were dating that Winthrop boy. Your dad and I were both angry and embarrassed. When you announced your relationship, he came to our house once. He said that since you had someone you liked, he'd step aside and asked us not to tell you. After that, he stopped visiting, though he still sent gifts. With such a perfect example, how could we approve of that what's his name? Apart from his good looks, what did he have? Indecisive, easily swayed, complicated family situation. If it weren't for how he treated you, we wouldn't have let him set foot in our house. And even that one good point. She trailed off. How long has it been, and he's already cast you aside? We've tried to talk sense into you so many times. But it's like you're under a spell, not listening. The wedding, postponed just like that, and all for his little childhood friend. I had come to brag, but I hadn't expected all this. No wonder my parents didn't say much when Stefan and I registered our marriage. And why they seemed so familiar with him. But now it had turned into a lecture about me. As I saw my mum getting more and more worked up, about to lose her temper, I had a quick idea and pointed towards the door. Stefan! My mum stopped mid-sentence, and I quickly darted out of the room. After looking around and not seeing anyone in the living room, I went outside. I spotted Stefan and my dad having tea in the small pavilion in the garden. I walked over to them. Without a word, I tugged at Stefan's arm, ready to leave. Though confused, Stefan stood up, following my lead. He glanced back at my dad, who waved his hand dismissively, and then left with me. I clung to his arm as we walked. Noticing my low spirits, Stefan asked softly, "Are you upset?" I shook my head, not knowing what to say. He raised his hand and pulled me into an embrace. Just then, an angry voice rang out. "What are you doing?" I turned my head to see Jeffrey returning, looking travel-worn. He was staring intently at Stefan's hand holding mine. I remained silent, noticing the bloodshot eyes and Vicky standing delicately behind him. I buried my face in Stefan's embrace, not wanting to look anymore. Stefan held me close and glanced at the pair with a hint of mockery in his eyes. "What I do is none of Mr. Winthrop's business, is it?" Jeffrey stepped forward, trying to grab my hand and pull me away. But Stefan turned, avoiding him, and then released his hold on me. Jeffrey's hands were shaking as he quickly moved to stand in front of me. "Claudia, don't be afraid." "I'm here," he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Claudia is my fiancé." "Mr. Watson, shouldn't you explain why you're embracing my fiancé like this?" Looking at the man shielding me behind him, I felt a mix of emotions. For over a year, whenever we argued about Vicky, he would shield her in the same way and say to me, "Claudia, don't make a fuss. Claudia, apologize quickly. Claudia, you shouldn't have. He had never firmly stood by my side. Stefan's eyes narrowed slightly, his gaze becoming sharp. Mr. Winthrop, you're asking me for an explanation? Shouldn't you first explain why? After repeatedly asking people to look after your childhood friend at various events, you called off the wedding on the eve of your big day, leaving your fiancé in the lurch, and took your friend to North America? And now you've brought her back, what for? Jeffrey stiffened, turned to look at me, and took my hand. Claudia, it's not like that. There's a reason. I can explain. Stefan interrupted, breaking Jeffrey's hold on my hand. Mr. Winthrop, please show some restraint. Don't be so touchy-feely with my wife. Jeffrey's eyes widened, looking at him in disbelief. Your wife? Impossible. Claudia is my fiancé. We were about to get married. His voice suddenly became hoarse. He looked at me, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me unwaveringly with hope. His lips tightly pressed, waiting for my denial. However, his hopes were not realized. I walked over to Stefan and stood beside him. I've already married him. I am indeed his wife. Hearing my words, Jeffrey stood frozen for a long moment without saying a word. He swayed slightly and was steadied by Vicky. Claudia moved on so quickly, she said softly, adding fuel to the fire. I couldn't care less, not even bothering to look at her. Stefan shot her a glance, and Vicky immediately shut her mouth. Jeffrey pushed away her supporting hand, quickly putting things together. The veins on his forehead became visible. So, the wedding wasn't cancelled? Just, the groom was changed? Claudia! How dare you? Marrying someone else at our wedding? Looking at the man trembling with anger before me, I nodded. I got married. It was our wedding while you were accompanying Vicky to North America. A week without contact. If he had contacted anyone back home, he would have known. If he had cared about my affairs at all, he wouldn't have waited until today to find out. But he didn't. He was across the ocean, taking care of his childhood friend, worrying about her, with all his heart. Jeffrey felt a sharp, tingling pain in his heart, as if a hand was clawing at it, making it bleed. How could this happen? After arriving in North America, he had lost his phone, and didn't have time to replace it due to the urgency. He used a local phone and had wanted to call Claudia, but was always interrupted by various matters. He had thought Claudia would be very angry. So he had already decided that once Vicky's foot was healed, he would return and give Claudia an even grander wedding. He knew he had wronged Claudia this time and was determined to treat her better in the future. He would no longer take care of Vicky. He had done enough for her. He would give her a sum of money, which should be enough to repay her parents for their past kindness to him. Claudia loved him so much, he couldn't make her wait any longer. But now, the sudden shock, combined with jet lag from his hasty return, caused him to faint right there. The Winthrop family driver, who must have been waiting nearby, rushed over upon seeing this. Together with Vicky, they supported Jeffrey to the car. Without looking back, I held Stefan's hand and walked towards home. Claudia. This is the first time you've taken my hand on your own. Hearing his magnetic voice filled with a smile, I bit my lip with reddened ears and said, What? Am I not allowed to? His smile grew even more affectionate as he said, Of course you are. Only you are allowed. Back home, I asked him about what my mother had told me. Stefan nodded. At that time, I was thinking, I've been hanging around you for almost a year, and you still haven't fallen for me. It seems I'm really not to your liking. I quickly shook my head. It's not that. I just didn't dare to have any improper thoughts about you then. I thought you were a big shot and wouldn't like someone like me. Stefan smiled. Not disliking him was good enough, they would take it slow from here. That day, I also learned a secret. The person who saved me at the foot of the mountain when Jeffrey and Vicky went hiking. It was Stefan. Doing good deeds without leaving his name, indeed. Later, I heard from a friend that Jeffrey had been hospitalized with a fever. I thought I wouldn't see him again for a while. until the housekeeper told me someone had been standing outside for a long time, saying he wanted to see me. I nodded, knowing we needed to clear things up. Please show him in. Seeing Jeffrey's flushed cheeks, I knew he had come despite his fever. I gestured for him to sit down. Is there something you want to say? Jeffrey licked his dry, fever-chapped lips. Claudia, please let me explain. I don't have feelings for Vicky. I only look after her because her parents were kind to me when they were alive. Now that she's on her own, I just see her as a sister. It's you I care for, it's always been you. I sighed and poured him a glass of water. Jeffrey, actions speak louder than words. You were the one who called off our engagement. You made me face all the gossip and pointing fingers. You flew to North America with Vicky. When you saw Vicky and me arguing, you scolded me without knowing the facts and made me apologize. You left me behind when we went hiking because you didn't believe me about Vicky. And now you come here so openly. Have you considered my position? If Stefan were less understanding, you could make my life very difficult. Do you realize that? Jeffrey stiffened. I'm sorry, I just wanted to see you. Then he spoke again. He's not good for you. Why don't you get a divorce? Yes, divorce him and marry me instead. We can be together again, Claudia. I thought Jeffrey's fever must have addled his brain. What are you thinking? I'm very happy now, I'm not getting divorced. Jeffrey mumbled, if I hadn't left, you would have been my wife. Mine. I stood up. Marriage isn't a game, Jeffrey. You should go now. Let's leave things as they are. He refused, his voice hoarse and bitter. So Stefan Watson is such a good man, is he? The one you married. We were together for so long, and you don't trust me, but you trust him? I looked at him and said slowly and clearly, whether I trust him or not, I certainly don't trust you anymore. Ever since Vicky came back, you never once firmly believed in me or stood by my side. Whenever there was a choice between us, I was always the one left behind. From clothes, bags and jewelry, to your time, your promises. Even the wedding dress and ceremony we designed together, and finally, you yourself. Though it was all in the past, I still felt the hurt and my eyes welled up. Do you know how many times you've ignored me and left me behind? I've even gotten used to it. So, Jeffrey, just go. Go find Vicky, or anyone else. Just don't come looking for me again. I didn't pay attention to when he left. When Stefan came home, I told him what had happened. He listened quietly without much reaction. Finally, he just said, I had expected him to ask more questions. Seeing my puzzled expression, he slowly explained. Claudia, I know your temperament. When you sent me that message about going to the register office, I knew you had already let him go and wouldn't choose him again. I was stunned, then smiled. Is that so? But Mr. Watson, you're holding your papers upside down. Stefan froze for a moment, then turned the documents the right way up with a wry smile. And we laughed together. A few days later, while shopping for clothes with my mom, we ran into an old family friend who immediately started gossiping with her. Apparently, after Jeffrey recovered from his illness, he locked himself in his room and started drinking heavily. He wouldn't open the door for anyone. That was until someone sent him a voice recording revealing that Vicky's foot injury wasn't nearly as severe as claimed. She had bribed the hospital to falsify her medical records. Jeffrey confronted Vicky, and they had a massive row. He cut off all her financial support and blacklisted her in the industry. It turns out Vicky hadn't even finished her degree while studying abroad. Without proper qualifications and now blacklisted, she's struggling to make ends meet. Jeffrey's grandfather disapproved of his poor judgment and temperament, considering it embarrassing. He demoted Jeffrey to a subsidiary company in a remote town, effectively crushing any future ambitions he might have had for power within the Watson Group. I never expected to see him again before he left. We met at a party where I was attending with Stefan. The atmosphere was bustling, and Stefan was caught up in socializing, unable to break away. I decided to step out for some fresh air. It wasn't long before I saw Jeffrey standing beside me. He looked noticeably thinner and more haggard. Claudia, I'm leaving in a couple of days. I came today just to see you one last time, he said. I see. I wish you all the best, I replied. Jeffrey's eyes reddened, his voice hoarse. I've been thinking a lot these past few days. I've been terribly wrong for so long, causing you so much pain. I'm sorry, Claudia. I'm truly sorry. I nodded. Yes, it's all in the past now. Have you finished? Jeffrey pressed his lips together, his voice choked. Yes. We stood in silence for a long while. Back in university, we always had endless conversations. After graduation, during our rare moments alone, I was the only one with endless things to say. Now, I remained silent, and he didn't know what to say either. We had finally reached the point of having nothing left to say to each other. I turned and walked away, following my own path towards the light at the end. There, I saw Stefan in his bespoke silver-gray suit, leaning casually against the staircase. Hearing my footsteps, he looked up. His cold, indifferent gaze instantly softened with warmth. I thought to myself, I am still fortunate after all. Ring, ring. Speak, a cold voice answered. Mr. Watson, it was you who told me to come back and hook up with Jeffrey. Now I've been blacklisted and ended up like this. You can't just abandon me. I merely pointed out a clear path for you. It's your own doing that led you to this state. His tone was mocking. Watch your mouth, or else. After hanging up the phone, the man turned and embraced the sleeping woman, kissing her gently. No more, I'm sleepy. A soft voice with a hint of huskiness protested. The man's eyes filled with tender amusement as he said, All right, baby. Sleep well.